Synergetic Journal Video, Episode number 9, February 6th through February 7th, 2026. Is nuclear geometry a conceptual democracy? Christina Herlofson, Synergetics Research Project. As plain as the nose on your face, or anyone's face. So too was and continues to be, from the 1970s Bucky Fuller Synergetics Explorations in the Geometry of Thinking, wherein our informed knowledge learns of the vector equilibrium's nuclear uniqueness, Synergetics 1011.51. During the 20th century, academia's code-writing algorithmic enthusiasts expanded computer technology into robots that can emulate humans and many clever language emulations while infiltrating the universal communication systems, including governmental business, governmental law, surveillance, facial recognition, and any manifest system without restrictions. It raises significant implications for security, privacy, and other civil liberties across the globe. This is occurring with expectations for humans to comply, while our human nature is gradually supplanted by mechanisms that cannot be more economical in principle than the concept of limits of asymmetry, which is in respect to the vector equilibrium. The vector equilibrium goes to molecules, which is nuclear uniqueness and all of its variables within the domain of the 3-frequency VE, vector equilibrium. We have the vector equilibrium as an empty set tetrahedron. Metaphysical, that's metaphysical, intellect conceptualizes this natural phenomenon for the first layer of 12 around 1 closest packing equiradius spheres and the next layer of 42 equiradius spheres with no other potential nucleus in its exterior shells, structural triangular faces. Then there are the nuclear and non-nuclear polyhedra, wherein the closest packed nucleated octahedron's 18 spheres, the tetrahedron's 34 spheres, the rhombic dodecahedron's 92 spheres, and the cube's 364 spheres, that RBF thought could play parts of great significance in the atomic structuring and crystallography's chemical compounding that tuned-in intellection can explore in Synergetics 425.13. It informs us of the other two symmetric Platonic solids, Platonic from the Greek philosopher Plato, that are inherently devoid of equiradius nuclear spheres, the icosahedron and the dodecahedron, with insufficient radius space within the triangular void. In any event, most of us know little to nothing about atomic structuring, and yet we are educated to depend on political systems always being up in arms, fearing nuclear bombs, being obliterated by atomic weapons, driving each other crazy with inadequate communication tools to diplomatically manage the serious matters before the most ignorant regimes devise weaponized defenses against the other's nuclear arsenal, and the most intelligent governments learn more about the most economical spherical agglomerations, mainly The closest packing of equiradius spheres, which is the way atoms behave in nature's invisible to visible environments. Initially, those nuclear concerns emanated from the insane Nazis who were reported to the United States officials by Albert Einstein's urgent concerns about that regime attempting to build a nuclear weapon. Subsequently, the USA took Einstein seriously, and splitting the atom was integrally involved in the competitive drive to beat those extreme insanities of Adolf Hitler's deplorable government. The final result followed testing during the Manhattan Project, and as the first atomic bomb was dropped from an airplane and detonated over a populated area occurred on August 6, 1945 at 8:15 a.m. over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The second atomic bomb detonated over a populated area occurred on August 9, 1945 at 11:02 a.m. over the Japanese city of Nagasaki. See Britannica.com. During RBF's Oregon lectures number 6, number 7, and number 8, Bucky explains that in quotes, in closest packing of spheres, which the physicists find is employed by nature in the basic gridding of all agglomerations of atoms, end quote. He went on to explain that physicists find time and again nature using this closest packing for basic coordination and, during geometric measurements, always getting 12 around 1, with alternate spaces that are not being used so that triangular groups can be rotated. The rotation goes into one position of 60 degrees or to an alternate nestable place. Our 21st century curiosity is endowed with an imagination that formulates conceptually during reliable cogitations in respect to vector equilibrium. The integral competence can imagine closest packing of equiradius spheres as spaces becoming spheres and spheres becoming spaces. In other words, in quotes, where every vertex is the domain of a sphere, we have closest packing, end quote. Besides, it is not too difficult when thinking of closest packing of identical radius spherical agglomerations during consciously coordinated thought and language, in particular, when the comprehensive coordination of nature's most economical and most comfortable structural interrelationships employs 60-degreeness. It is also, as we begin integrating the essential, always and only coexisting complementarities that physics has found, such as association and disassociation. Doing so provide an omnirational interrelationship accounting system that, if arbitrarily accounted on a 90-degree three-dimensional basis, becomes inherently irrational. See Synergetics Dictionary. Perhaps, more obviously, the Synergetics nuclear pristineness would not have been considered exploitable enough for profit-motivating ambitions, when the computer engineers and video game players may have evaluated Synergetics' omnidirectional terminal case, corner, and tetravolumes as obstacles to be avoided, being too precise, as clearly conceptual systems for anyone, anywhere to conceptualize, independent of size, as benign omnirational solutions having no relatedness to computerized links and usurping unintentional destructive intentions. That would have been during a potentiality when consciously coordinating thought, language, thought, action, referential to the absolute generalized integrity that accommodates all special case space of space-time reality. As the discontinuity is accommodated, thus shown in Synergetics 10.12.01. Anyone can learn about 9 and 9ness, especially since each prime structural system in universe has 9 separate, unique states of existence. 4 are positive and 4 are negative, and 1 schematic unfolded nothingness state. Schematic as in diagrams, and also systemic thoughts, referential geometric models. We can recall, in quotes, 9 equal none equals 0, end quote, especially while recollecting the always and only coexisting complementarity 0 and system, 0 and heat. Furthermore, since nucleus equal 9 equal nothing, why, in omni-rational universe, would these conceptual equations be irrelevant to forming nuclear geometry's conceptual democracy, which may well be a synergetic democracy's more perfect union's most economical conceptioning? The answer requires more synergetically informed knowledge respecting 60-degreeness versus 90-degreeness that can be brushed aside when focuses are in relatively short periods of time, with concentrated efforts on promoting and succeeding to accomplish pushing one political party or the other into the government's power seats. The last thing on those enthusiasts' mentality is consciously coordinating anticipatory thoughts' unique angularity of 60-degreeness, which are the limits of four-dimensional systems compared to perpendicular 90-degreeness that uniquely characterizes the limits of a three-dimensionality while promoting in video format manifest two-dimensional articulation similar to viewing movies on a movie screen. Cosmic logically, we have to wonder about 4 and more dimensions when contemplating potential, which is neutral in 60 degrees differentiations, from action, reaction, subconsciously regressive, reenacting articulations that inevitably increase the tolerance magnitudes. As the PRJWBCHM continues unabated, by relatively misguiding stratagems having inadvertently ushered in the AI, artificial intelligence, we are being overwhelmed by now. With 60-degree modelability, referential to the vector equilibrium field of energy, as an energy rebirth system, then billions of individuals on Earth would not so readily be susceptible to joining bandwagons of anti-humanity mindless promotions as this is happening now, coincidentally to various forms of AI technology that is permitted by non-plus governmental intelligence who has no apparent knowledge of multidimensional solutions to 1, 2, 3-dimensional problems while supported by biased reporting agencies to stupefy humans throughout the world's human conditions. You could think robots are so useful, easily replacing humans, working faster, smarter, for profit-motivated interests, but that thinking does not respect nor highly value the human species as an intelligent, evolving design, But for the educated ignorance that promotes the PRJWBCHM, politics, religion, justice, war, complex hierarchical matrix, and now AI technologies, robot populations, humans everywhere remain ignorant of the nuclear sphere, which is half in the physical and half in the metaphysical, the metaisical. This means whatever is repeating as now you see it, now you don't see it, is characteristics of Synergetics' nuclear sphere. Synergetics' nuclear sphere simultaneously is both concave and convex, elucidating the microcosmic turnaround limit of universe. So too does the c to the second, or c squared to the second power, where at the limit of the speed of light's velocity times itself returns to the macrocosm. It suggests radiation reaching its highest velocity, whereat it becomes gravity. This awareness provides a turnaround limit where gravity's omni-embracing, omni-cohesive, all-wave-linear, independent of casting a shadow conceptuality, coincides with hypothetically, technologically identifying the male as radiation and the female as gravitation, albeit superficially. Theoretically, the conceptual correlations cannot be denied. From any observed human experience, including electric outlets as female and plugs as male, that sort of thing. Why in omni-rational universe would any democracy not highly value Synergetics' conceptualities, especially since the people who comprise a nation are always dealing with interrelationship patterns, socio-economic schemes, rising and falling regimes, short-term administrations, or authoritarian ruled populations. To make matters worse is high rising office buildings that cost millions of dollars, adding to the complexity of non-existent lower cost housing for millions of people. This problem repeats the cycle relative to taxation and unbalanced incentives that repeat political contrived patterns in many nations. See YouTube Asian boss, why Singapore's success is becoming a problem. Explained December 11, 2025. One review at Metals Unlimited 1 month ago, in quotes, high prices, high mortgage rates, high inflation, high property taxes, high property insurance, shocking, end quote. Housing crises are happening anywhere in nations across the world, as the lowest echelons and incomes show evidence of the long-ignored desperation. At the street level, evidence is sprawling on the sidewalk. Humans living in hovels of cardboard, ingesting drugs to dull the pain. Failed attempts to escape the socio-economic nightmares. How can it not get worse? The more our human species complies with every degree of abuse by any of the PRJWBCHM factors, while also ignorantly supplanting our well-being, exploited thus by computerized systems that are operating at our humanity's expense, as the masses are deprived of essential knowledge in the normal course of events. The normal course of events expects accurate trial and error explored survival stratagems in the universal communication process that ought to include generalization principles within the disseminated content from trustworthy information sources, not supposedly trustworthy resources and fake news reporting media. Yet knowledge of the very conceptualities of eternally regenerating energy systems is shunned, disregarded to make room for the all-powerful usurping technologies. Those computer technologies are owned and operated by once ordinary humans working out the rudiments of computers as academia throughout the last quarter of the 20th century before 1970 and 1980 seem to have veered away from considering R. Buckminster Fuller's nuclear geometry. The absences of forethought have escalated to perpetuating close relations to warring factions, as if politics, religion, justice, and war are the primary self-other motivations that the human species is designed in principle to accomplish, when imaginably universe's eternal omniscient mind designs every star in all galaxies, including the generalized principles correlating to every degree of intertransformation as expansion and contraction, and all the coexisting complementarities would have had first to design our species in order for us to devise computer technology for building machines, training them how to emulate and replace our remarkable brain, its cerebral nerve circuits, neuronal paths, stem cell reproduction, etc., that few to none of us yet fully comprehend. Once informed of what is governed by the formula frequency to the second power times 2 plus 2, with the outer layer also doubled in value, that predictably identifies chemical elements, albeit limited to the unique nuclear domain. We have to wonder about the inside-outing transformation of universe's synergy, energy, syntropic, entropic conceptualities. The phenomenon that occurs only at the tetrahedral level in the closest packed sphere's shell growth rates relative to any local transformation. Does the human imagination's individual's innate ability to formulate conceptually employ its awareness of generalized concepts using its metaphysical propensities correlatively with generalization principles as a conceptioning in operational fields of thought during anticipatory administrations or regime changes? Is it possible to signify and value such generalized systems applications? If so, it would be contradictory to the natural proclivity, while promoting enmity states with intentions to usurp the natural conceptual functions that inherently validate the individual's inviolable integrity. This is the case at every level of information gathering and local problem solving that requires conceptual geometric models in split-second life demonstrations of the elements, similarly to examples shown in Synergetics 419.10 through 419.13. Gratefully, faithfully, eternally, Christina Herlofson.